everyone, Therese here. I hope you're having a good week so far. A lot of stuff going on. Let me think about what's happening. Well, right now, I guess the most, other than the Mercury retrograde that is continuing to happen right now, we have a weak level geomagnetic storm going on. So that we've got solar energy coming in, and this is always an indicator on an ascension level that there are some new downloads coming through. We've got that solar flare activity, which increases the geomagnetic field of the Earth. And this, interestingly enough, can also have an effect on communication devices, technology, as well as an effect on human health. So you might notice that today you feel a little off. I woke up with like perma headache. So did my husband. Animals and children, again, are really good indicators because they usually receive like that full force of energy. So I've noticed it both. Cats acting a little silly and children are acting a little precious. So if you're noticing that, if you notice that today just feels a little bit harder, and in adults, you know, it can manifest in a lot of ways, a lot of different symptoms. Like I said, I'm having headache, trouble sleeping, nausea for some people. It kind of manifests all sorts of ways. Some people get a boost from it, which is awesome for them that they're getting all this energy. I checked the Schumann resonance, and interestingly enough, we haven't had any really intense Schumann resonance spikes. We had one at 54 a couple days ago, but it keeps like hanging out in the teens. Today we hit like a high of 15. That's not a lot of stuff. So interestingly enough, it's not in the earth yet, but it's definitely in the atmosphere coming in. So we're feeling that. Okay, so that can make us feel a little off. And then again, we're deep into this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which digs into the subconscious mind and pulls up psychic knowledge through digging through the mystery, right? So a lot of stuff coming to light that's been in the shadow coming out. Even just things that were hidden in your subconscious mind that weren't quite clicking might come in now through the Mercury retrograde. So I asked the team what messages they wanted me to share today. I'm actually in the middle of going through a document that a couple of friends of mine found, and we've been going through it, and it's so intense and it's so mind-blowing, the stuff that's coming out, that I can't wait to share. But I'm in the middle of processing it. So that's where my brain's at. I'm like, I gotta process all this amazing information. And it definitely, it's like hand in glove with a lot of the stuff. Thank you, team. A lot of the stuff I get from my team. And a lot of the stuff I teach, it's just like missing puzzle pieces are coming in. So I can't wait to share more on that, but I'm still processing. So the team said, let's talk today about, let's remind people about oneness and structure of oneness, because it's a little, it's a little bit more tiered than maybe we think about it as. Okay, so oneness being that we are all connected, we are all one, we're connected to one, to the infinite creation, the source energy, God, whatever you want to call it. We're connected to this ultimate consciousness. This is what we come from, and ultimately we're all a part of it. But interestingly enough, like there's steps between this point of consciousness and that grand point of consciousness. And some of these steps are really important and really delightful, and they start to make so much more sense when we walk up in between the two. You know, when we really get into New Earth teachings, we're really going to get fractal math, fractals, right? The fractal. So fractal math is when you see you take a pattern, and no matter how much you zoom in or zoom out, the pattern keeps repeating. It's the same no matter how small it is or how large it is. So when you zoom into a tiny piece of it, there's the pattern again. When you go midway, there's the pattern. When you go big, you see the big pattern again. It just keeps repeating. This is a fractal. So it's a reflection. It's a constant reflection. And the highest level of consciousness is a reflection of this level of consciousness, which is a level, which is a reflection of the micro consciousness. It's like the easiest way I can describe it is, if you could imagine yourself where you are right now at this level of consciousness, you picture yourself as a being inside the universe, right? But if you were to open your mouth and imagine looking inside of yourself, what you would see is the universe. And if you were to go down to the cellular level and look inside a cell, what you would see is the universe. So it's a universe. And then if you were to go outside of yourself and go fully up, you would obviously see the universe, right? So you are a universe inside a universe, and you know what I mean? It's like Russian nesting dolls, but all the dolls look the same. And it's just when we move our consciousness, we have different kinds of experiences. For example, at this level, we have a biological being experience, whereas if we were to move up a level in consciousness, we'd have maybe a planetary consciousness. And if we were to move up a level from that, we'd have galactic consciousness, right? So it really has to do, it's the same experience repeating from different perspectives. It's very interesting. A little confusing to explain. Visuals help. I wish I had a visual to share with you. But it's this repeating pattern. And when you understand that it's all, that's how you're connected, and that this God force energy, this source energy is you having a unique experience in all these different ways, then you see how you're connected to it. And then it suddenly makes sense why all information is easily accessible to you, because you are there at every single level. You are the cell and the universe. And when you go down to the cellular level, you're at the creation level. When you're at this level, it's a biological level. At that level, galactic, right? So when we get more true teachings, when the true teachings of math and the true teachings of science come through, and I know that's, for some people, you might get what that statement means. For others, you might be like, what do you mean the true teachings? There's higher and more authentic and accurate teachings that have not yet been fully expressed here on this plane, but they are coming in and we will see them. And we're seeing like reflections of them now. We saw the pre-reflection of it coming, and very soon, we're going to experience it fully. And it's interesting because that document I'm still processing, it said something that just kind of blew my mind. It said that we will make a 10,000 year leap in consciousness, understanding, and technology in a 10-year period soon, which is, so this is when they talk about the ascension, right? We will make a 10,000 year leap in our consciousness and our technology and our understanding. That's going to be impressive to watch. It's going to be amazing. So what they want to talk about right now, though, is they asked to talk about soul group consciousness, because between individualized consciousness are soul groups or soul families. And you've already run into soul group family members. Here's an easy way to understand when it's soul group. It's a person who, the first time you talk to them, it's like click. It's like, I've talked to you before. I feel like I've known you forever. Those people in your life, these are important people. These are soul group people. And on our way up to oneness consciousness, where we're all connected, which we definitely are, we sort of did, we tier out, or you could say we cluster together in a very specific pattern. So when we move from 3D / beginning of 4th D, what we've got is individualized consciousness. The next level up is collective consciousness. And I believe that in between this is where we get a soul group consciousness. So it's really interesting, because between individual and a collective, or like a group, a planetary group, are soul groups. And so then we go, so let me just take you through it. We got individualized, soul group, planetary group, galactic group, possibly like a quadrant, and then we go up until we hit universal oneness consciousness. So the groupings that are closest to individuality are the points at which you shared the same soul, which is one of those thoughts that either you get it or it's like, what? Or it blows your mind. But imagine that the oneness, as it started here at the peak, it sort of tiered a little bit, and it kind of it broke into little pieces, and then those pieces broke into smaller pieces until we get down to an individual point. So you shared a soul signature with a group at some point. This is what you would identify as like a soul family, soul tribe, soul group. These people are one of the closest matches you have to your own individualized energetic signature. And when you find each other, amazing things happen. First of all, it validates your experience deeply. You have deeper trust in yourself because they instantly reflect it back to you. Their well-being becomes of great importance to you. Sometimes they feel more like family than family, and that's because you shared a soul at some point, right? So the fractal, again, at that level, you shared most of the components of a soul structure. And we actually are incarnating usually at the same time with our soul group, because we sort of do this as a team, and we do it it activates higher consciousness in us when we find each other. So the team is asking me to remind you to think about people in your life where you had this deep connection to, and you maybe just only met them. I just had one recently where I was like, I found another one. Like, you just know, it's this gut response. It's this this instant knowing that this is not the first time that you've met. Your own personal experience feels deeply validated by their existence. And usually it goes both ways, that it's a mutual feeling. And they tend to be what makes you feel anchored in this reality. Like, that's your anchor. So the team's asking you to think about, remember, and really appreciate and honor that, because in times of change, of great shifting and change and chaos, right? Imagine being on a ship together and the storm's really blowing and tossing. It can really, without those anchors, right, can really make you feel like you're being blown and tossed around, and we're having a multitude of experiences. We're having a multitude of realities, right? So if you're like, wait, a multitude of realities, then go check out my latest podcast on my Modern Mystic Soul podcast, and I talk about that. But yes, we're having a multitude of realities. There are multiple timelines that happen at the same time. And then don't get me started on dimensions, because within those timelines are multiple dimensions. And when we have such massive change, like we are having in this reality, in this time-space continuum right now, it feels like we can be tossed around, and we can lose that sense of, if you've got something, like you can feel like, do I have it? Like, did I miss it? Am I missing something? When you recognize your own soul family anchors, many times they're getting what you get. Now, that doesn't mean they get exactly what you get, but most of what they get resonates with you, and vice versa will resonate with them. And so the team just like make sure you're checking in with soul family and recognizing that this is a group. And you know what they're showing me right now? It's like, you know, when people go parachuting, sometimes they go as a group, and it shows me a bunch of people holding hands as they're sort of free falling, because this shift into higher density energy, this shift into the higher 4D, which is where we're going, as on our way to 5D, it is like a free fall a little bit. It's going to get intense, and having that group with you just keeps you anchored and helps you know that when you're going when you're going through the air and nothing feels solid, there is something solid right there with you. Okay, that's the first message. The second message is a repeat of a message that came through, I think, not last one, that was Divine Feminine, Soul Devotion. Again, they're saying focus on what you love, focus on what makes you happy, focus on joy and fun, and bring your soul to it. Bring your heart and soul to this. It is very important in times where the energy can easily be swayed in a positive or negative way because it's so highly emotionally charged, very highly emotionally charged. That highly emotionally charged energy is very easy to manipulate. And part of why you're here and part of why you're watching this is your team raised the frequency, okay? Your team raised the frequency. And how do we do that? If you're a person who tends to see the big picture or want to jump in and with full force, you might think you have to go out to change the frequency. Like I have to go out there and do things. And that's okay. If that's calling to you and it resonates, then go out there and do something. But many of us are able to raise the frequency by being the antenna we are. By being the antenna we are, we simply are planted where we are. So if you're not getting called to go out and do something, you need to listen. And am I being told to stay here? Am I being told to plant? That's because you're an antenna and you broadcast a frequency. And how do you do that? Well, I mean, science has shown, they've discovered that the highest frequency is the dominant frequency in an area. So let's say you're in an area where everyone's pretty pissed off and grumbly, and there's a lot of tension and energy. That's the dominant frequency right there. But if one person genuinely raises their mood, genuinely raises it, raises their frequency, they become like a magnetic point in which the rest of the area around that person starts to raise. It doesn't mean they raise to the peak, but they are no longer in that lower vibration. They can't be, because there's a new peak of energy, which is a magnetic peak, and it affects all frequency around it, raising it up. This is why the group mass meditation works. As soon as people group meditate together, they raise their frequency and it affects the entire area. So naturally, the more people raising a frequency in any specific area, the higher the frequency goes, but also the radius becomes a larger area. The beautiful thing, though, is that you as an individual by yourself can raise the frequency and it'll affect directly the neighbors around you. So you have a natural radius. So what they're asking you to do is, if you love to meditate, raise your frequency. If you love to make art, sit down and make art, raise your frequency. If you love to watch silly movies with your family, do that, raise your frequency. Anything that you're doing and you're doing it from that heart-centered, like I'm devoting myself to creating joy. I'm devoting myself to having fun. I'm devoting myself to loving this moment, will raise your frequency. And then you become the dominant frequency broadcasting. It's such a beautiful energy because you can literally help people out without them ever knowing it was you, right? Which is the ultimate form of giving, when we give without expecting acknowledgement or receipt for it. So by simply, isn't that beautiful? Isn't it beautiful how it's designed? By you simply devoting yourself to what you love and what brings you joy, you raise your frequency, you become the magnetic point to which all frequency around you must match, which instantly helps out other beings around you. I mean, that's a beautiful design. So beautiful. So if at all, I guess I'm being told to share this again, because in case you feel guilty for feeling good, the universe wants you to say, please unburden yourself, please stop. Do not feel guilt. They're giggling in their next room, and that's raising my frequency. Please do not feel guilty for being in joy. Do not feel guilty, or, please let go of guilt for feeling good. Please feel good. If that's where you're at, please feel good. You are helping your fellow brothers and sisters out by doing so. It's raising a frequency. They just want me to keep reminding that this is how powerful you are. This is how beautiful the design is. And when you kind of hold that consciousness, right? And then when you start doing it from that place where you're like, I'm going to raise the frequency. I'm going to help some people out, and again, you're doing it within yourself. You're doing this quiet intention of sending higher frequency out, right? That's true giving. So I just wanted to share that again, because I don't think we can be told that enough, right? Let's do karma cards. Let's do the karma cards. So this reading is for today, October 21st. By the way, happy birthday to all Scorpios. Scorpio season officially starts today. And it goes to October 28th. And for those who are new to doing karma cards with me, let me tell you how they work. I have 3 decks here: the planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. I've already asked my team what's the message for this time period, and I've gotten 2 sets of answers, one in red for action and one in blue for outcome. And all you have to do is tune in intuitively and decide, what do you need? Do you need red for action or blue for outcome? And some people want both, and you can definitely take both. So we have the South Node. South Node is about the past. In Aquarius, which is about the future. In the 7th house, which is about partnership and working together. All right, well, that's an interesting one. The past, the future, together. So for those who are choosing red or action, your spiritual action at this time, remember your vision diplomatically. Okay, remember your vision diplomatically. I mean, it's really interesting because vision, right? So that vision is what you're intending for the future. Remember, comes from the past. So you've thought about this before. And diplomatically means a fair deal for everyone. Like, the beautiful thing about vision is it's always something you can workshop, right? And we always do. We naturally do. We're constantly adapting our vision for what we're looking for in the future. So it's kind of like they're asking you to go into your internal workshop where you build things on the internal plane, and you're asking to bring even more of that Libra balance, fairness energy into it, because Libra rules the 7th house. So we're thinking about working together, which is where we're going. That is the golden age and the age of Aquarius, the humanitarian. And the humanitarian is the one who they give what they get, and they understand that the principle is the more you give, the more you get, right? The more, it's just like anybody who has ever taught something to someone else gets this 100%. You learn it, right? You learn something, but as soon as you teach it to somebody else, the knowledge goes deeper in you. So you're giving by teaching, but you're getting at a deeper level. That's the magic right there. So remember your vision diplomatically. Mental action at this time. Reconsider what's new and different about relationships. Well, this is an interesting one. Reconsider what's new and different about relationships. Well, one of the things I've been talking with about my own soul family is the fact that we can feel the ascension energy really kicking in. In fact, we can see a difference in ourselves between now and how we are approaching all sorts of different things and how we had approached it 2 years ago. You can feel a palpable difference. I'm taking something really small here, but I'm trying to illustrate a point, a really small point. Spiders. Never liked them. Used to get freaked out by them. Couldn't handle it. And this was more like years ago. But It used to be that I'd ask my husband to take care of them, and if that meant killing them, then he would. He'd just be like, okay, it's gone. And I was more worried about my fear of spiders than I was about the being itself. And the shift that's happened, nothing's changed. Spiders are still freaky, except that the connection has gotten deeper. The internal understanding of my connection with these beings and what it means to me has gotten deeper. And of course, there's a spider this morning, and instead of asking him to take care of it, I asked if he could get like a cup and a piece of paper. And I've been capturing them and setting them free, which is what I've known this in my mind for a long time, but I couldn't get over my fear. Well, the beautiful thing I'm trying to illustrate with this little small thing is that I've moved from letting my fear rule me around the subject to letting my humaneness rule me around the subject. And it might seem small, and hey, if you've gotten over it before I did, good job. But this was one of those moments for me where I was like, I see it now. I see this change in frequency. So reconsider what's new and different about relationships means reconsider what's the frequency change between you and others, friends, family, lovers, children, whoever it is. How are you relating differently this year, the last 2 years maybe, from maybe a couple years ago? It doesn't have to be huge, but you're going to see that frequency shift. Physical action. Now is not the time to use an unconventional way and get a fair deal. Okay, so when we've got the South Node, it's usually about holding back, stopping, surrendering, and revisiting old information. And use an unconventional way, that's Aquarius. Aquarius is a visionary. Get a fair deal, that's 7th house. So again, we have to recognize we're in this Mercury retrograde, which means our communicating with one another and what we get from one another can be very muddied and misunderstood and in an unconventional way. Unconventional means it's not been used a lot, or not before, maybe not before by you, which can definitely lead to miscommunication and misunderstanding. This is more of a time for waiting. This is a waiting period this next week between now and the 28th. Just, you might feel the impulse to do something that's out of character for you, but we're being asked to hold off. It won't be receptive. It won't be as receptive as it could be tomorrow. Spiritual outcome. There will not be genius to experiment with balance. Again, okay, I get it. So this is a highly tumultuous time period. There's a lot of unsteady energy. That's why they asked us to find our soul tribe or soul family, hold hands, like energetically. They're asking you to be an anchor of frequency by raising yours and having effect on others. Tumultuous times ahead. Okay, there will not be genius to experiment with balance. That means this is not one of those times where you're going to get outside of the box creative. You need to stick to the homegrown things you know. You need to stick to the balance that you've got, the anchors that you have. The anchor is those who are like a part of your own soul. That's one anchor. And what brings you love, like what you can devote yourself to for real. And that's the other anchor. Those are the places we're at right now. Mental outcome, anxiety about the discoveries of cooperation. So something new is coming forward, and maybe it's going to look unconventional because we've got Aquarius in there. It's not something we've seen before. It's going to cause people to question things, or they're going to go, I'm not familiar with this. This usually happens. Anxiety is pretty natural when it comes to the future or things we haven't done yet. When something is new and it's not, and it's unconventional, that naturally brings out anxiety in others. Anxiety about the discoveries of cooperation. Okay, we're going to have to work together, humanity, in a way that we're not maybe comfortable with. We're going to have to unite on some things that maybe you didn't see coming. Some of us see it coming. Some of us are not seeing it coming. We're going to unite, and it's going to make us feel unsure. because when you have to work together and you haven't been, it's kind of like, what choice do you have? I mean, it reminds me of a lot of movies where the two people who were sort of countering each other in the movie, right, suddenly have a united, they have to unite to confront something else. And there's no trust between them, but they have no choice but to trust each other. That thing's coming. Okay, I know that's really vague, but that's what I'm getting. In this next week, we're going to have to trust each other. People that maybe we're not trusting right now. It's going to be anxious, but that's what you got to do. Trust humanity. Have faith in humanity. More faith than maybe you have now. And all of humanity, right? It's not just the soul tribe that you're comfortable with, not just the circles that you're running in. Have faith in all of humanity, because we have to work together, and we will be pretty soon, very soon here. A physical outcome. Trouble resulting from the eccentricity of your partners. I have to laugh because I feel like that goes right to it's connected to that last statement when I said you're going to have to work with people who are unlikely partners, right? We didn't necessarily have to work together before, but now we do. Trouble resulting from the eccentricity of your partner. So this trouble is about focusing on how people are different. If we constantly focus on what divides us, we're not working together. This causes anxiety and ultimately trouble because we're too busy trying to, what's the word? They're like tying each other's shoes, trying to like point out how you're tying your shoes wrong versus like run together, right? So that's what they're showing me. That's the trouble. The trouble is when we're focused on what divides us versus on what unites us. So you're going to see the unlikely partners that are coming as eccentric, right? Or off, or you're going to want to continue to needle and pick at, maybe not you, but you're going to watch that energy, needling and picking, when really we're together, and that's what we need to focus on, what unites us together. The energy right now, and I think that, for those listening, for those resonating with the message, maybe you'll have a little bit of it. I don't see you as being the troublemaker. I see others who aren't awake to it, still needling and picking. This is where you doing your raise the frequency stuff is really important, because again, it's all about uniting as one for a common good versus focusing on how the other people are different, wrong, out of it, whatever. Focusing on separation. But ultimately, I wish I had more cards after this, because ultimately what I see is that we do it. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but just like in every movie where we watch this happen, first they have to get together to work through an obstacle. They needle and pick at each other. They have trust issues with each other. They're not sure they can trust, but then they realize, what other choice do I have? Once they hit that point, they start to harmonize and work together. And that's what I see coming. I see harmonizing and working together. People are going to have to get over some stuff. They got to get over that, but they're going to harmonize and come together. How you can help be an antenna of higher frequency, raise your frequency, and it raises the neighbors around you, right? So yeah, wild rides ahead, guys. I mean, like, seriously, this is the part of the ride where you got to remember it's a ride. You got to remember this is a roller coaster that you ultimately signed up for. And I'll say it again, you were chosen. You were the strongest of your group. So you have, the group that's around you right now in the non-physical, they are also extensions of your soul family. But these are they are just talking so much right now. The extensions of your soul family that are the very closest to you became the spirit team around you, right? So these are also non-physical extensions of you. Out of all these manifestations, all of these manifestations You are the strongest, which is why you were physicalized. Okay? So you are the SEAL team member of your own sort of spirit cluster, if you will. You're the strongest warrior. You're probably a warrior type energy to some degree in your bunch. And then every other person that's manifested here right now also reflects that. This is how we are very similar. This is one of the things that can connect us together, is if we realize that we were chosen to be here at this time for a very specific reason, that we are stronger than the conditioned programming has ever led you to believe. If you look at social conditioning propaganda stuff, it's all about humanity is weak, humanity needs help, we need somebody to rescue us, we're just humans, you know, other things are bigger and better. Lit out. Nope. Karate. I do not consent to that story. That's a lie. But what it does is the more you hear it, it weakens you on an emotional level, and then it weakens you on a vibrational level, because then you start to believe it. Don't buy it. You're the strongest of the strong, and you came here for this very specific, big, life-changing, global event that will change the frequency of this planet. Thank you. That's my team. So just understand that, like, take that with you. I know that it's like one of those things where you're like, okay. And it's one of those things where you're going to have to keep reminding yourself that, and eventually it's going to drop into you. But that's what your soul team is there for. It's your spirit team and your soul family. They will reflect it back to you. You will see it in them, and that will help confirm it within yourself. All right. So I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your energy with me. Let's go. We've got this. We can help by raising the frequency, and we're going to work together in a way I don't think a lot of people saw coming, unless you're watching the deeper storyline, in which case you know it's coming and it's about time. So here we go. All right. Mwah, I love you, and I will see you very soon. Bye. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.